Hey everyone, welcome to the Product Pivot. I'm Santi with my amazing co-host Meagan, and today we are stoked to be chatting with Tyler. I'm going to flip it over to him to introduce himself and get this conversation started.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Tyler Johnson. I work at a place called Nectar. We do recognition and rewards, employee recognition rewards. I made the switch over to products. I made the product pivot just in April of this year. So I'm coming up on like almost a full year of being a PM, and I've absolutely loved it. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. It's funny, I've been following Nectar forever. I know so many people from the Nectar team. I feel like once my friend Emily, who obviously you know, working on the marketing team, started working at Nectar, I was like, oh my gosh, I love all these people's content. I just started following everyone from Nectar. So it's so cool that you work at Nectar. So I know we had like our intro call before this. I would love for you to share with the listeners a little bit about like your history with Nectar, if you're up for that.
Yeah, totally. So my history with Nectar goes back all the way to the very beginning, funny enough. Even though I haven't been there since the beginning, my best friends are the founders. Literally since I was like 3 years old, these are all my best friends. So we've been on like the same sports teams, went to the same elementary, everything, right? They started it and I was at a different company and there was a lot of opportunities there. And so I was just kind of doing my thing. And I always looked forward to the day I was like, man, this would be so fun if like someday if you need me, hit me up. You know what I mean? But I always told my best friend who's the CEO, founder, I always said, don't call me just because I'm your friend. Like, don't call me just because we're homies. Call me because you actually need me and you feel like I can actually add value to the company. And so, yeah, coming up on 2 years in January. Yeah, literally in January, it'll be 2 years. So yeah, in like December, he hit me up and he's like, hey, I need you. And I'm like, all right, let's do this thing. And so I actually went over to Nectar January of 2023. Yeah. And went over as customer marketing and product marketing. So slightly different on the marketing team and loved that. Built out our whole customer advocacy program and helped like launch products, which was super fun. So kind of in the product world, but on the marketing team. And then made the switch over to product in April of just this year. So yeah, it's been super fun.
I think that story is so cool. I loved when you told us that story when we first met. I was like, that's meant to be. I think it's so
Totally.
cool. And I remember you told me like you love going to work every day. And you got all of these friends at work, and it just like the synergy must be awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Yeah,
that's
it's
so
honestly
cool.
it's such a blast like working with your friends. Obviously, there can be downsides when you get into business with friends or family. Obviously, there can be downsides. So far, it's been an absolute blast. Like as long as everybody like you stay rowing in the same direction and you're all like, hungry toward the same mission and trying to solve the same problems, like it's phenomenal. So, yeah, I've absolutely loved it. And yes, I work with those 3 of my best friends that are founders, but like basically everybody I work with has become like a best friend. So it's a blast.
That
That's
is
so cool.
so amazing. So, the background that I came from, I was with my previous company for almost 6.5 years. And those folks, like when you're with a team, especially folks that you really like and you vibe with, I find that it changes the whole tone of how things go because we became so close with each other. I knew like the ins and outs. That team was with me through every single like adult milestone that I had gone through from engagement to marriage, baby, like all these crazy things. It's so important to me that that is fostered in these environments because, like you said, it can really makes just all the difference in what we do and how we do it and who we do it with. So I love that story. It always gives me the cozy vibes and like the good energy. One thing I did want to ask, because you touched on this, is that you pivoted into product from the marketing team. And I
Yep.
actually wanted to ask what kind of transferable skills you capitalized on from your marketing experience to help you make that pivot into product.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question because kind of what literally got me into product was because I was customer marketing and product marketing, but I was kind of doing both of those things. I had the like working with customers constantly. Like I had to be customer obsessed. That's kind of how I like to think of it is I had to really know what were their problems, what were they trying to solve, how to position different things. Like when we launch something, how to position this to them because it's going to solve this problem and they care about these things. So I had to be very customer obsessed and get to know them and empathize with what they deal with on a daily basis with trying to make their culture better and struggling with employee retention. I had to kind of know all those problems And so making the switch over to product felt like it just kind of made sense, because that's kind of what I've always said is, as a product manager, you have to empathize with your customer. You have to know them. You have to know their problems, their struggles, and how your product truly does solve those problems and make their life better. So the transition just made sense. That was such a transferable skill. And obviously with the product marketing side, there was some like actual product launch and working closely with product pretty consistently. And so that transferred super well, where now we brought another product marketer and now I'm able to work very well with him because I know what it's like to be in his shoes. I know, all those things. And so the transfer honestly felt very seamless and very easy because I focus so heavily on our customers, and that's still what I do all the time.
Yeah, I love that. You just went from focusing on this team on the customer to doing it in the product space. But it was
yeah,
that's
exactly.
such a good example of a strong transferable skill that people can capitalize on as they consider pivoting into product wherever they're at in their journey. So I'm glad you touched on that, because that is an actionable thing that people can do.
Totally.
I think positioning is really important there too, because a lot of roles, especially marketing associated, focus on positioning and how you position the product to the customer, as well as like just knowing them very well. And people don't see that as like a skill for a product manager sometimes, I think, because like you just reach out to the go-to-market team when you need help with things like that. But I think if you can hone in on that skill, I think it's really crucial for product management.
Yeah, totally.
So
For me so far in product management, like the more I can schedule customer calls and be with them and talking with them, the better at my job I am. Obviously, I have to be able to manage stakeholders. I have to be able to do all of those things. That's like table stakes. But like if you can get really, really good at talking with customers and really understanding their problems, like I'm a way better product manager when I do that.
was there anything like as you were on the product marketing and customer marketing team, was there a moment where you were like, I want to do product management now? Or did it just kind of fall into place for you?
Yeah, phenomenal question. So at my previous company, Dental Intelligence, I was on the product team. I was product marketing, but I was on the product team. So working like very, very closely with the product managers, like all the time. That was my team. And then when I switched over to Nectar, it was on the marketing team, but I had that like I really liked what they did. You know what I mean? Like at Dental Intelligence. And it was funny because when the position became open at Nectar that, hey, we're hiring another product manager, the first thing that I did, I'm dead serious, I called up my buddy from my previous company who was a product manager, and I'm like, bro, I want to continue to work with you. Like, I tried to recruit him over for now the position that I'm in. And it was funny because it wasn't even like I was like, no, I actually really want this. It was, well, I did. Like, let's call it what it is. I did. Like underneath, I wanted to be a product manager all along, but I was just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I was just hesitant or whatever. But then the head of product here at Nectar was like, hey, why don't you throw your hat in the ring? And I'm like, are you serious? And so that kind of started the whole thing. And I'm like, wait, I'm actually really serious about that. Let's go. And so then I kind of got put into the mix with the 8 or so people, 10 people that were being interviewed, and came out on top, let's say. So yeah, I was super excited.
I think that's so important though. I feel like when you're interested in something, sometimes it takes a really good leader to say, hey, what about you? For
Totally.
you to actually like step in. Because I've had that experience in the past at other companies too, where I'm like, yeah, I could do that, but I'm probably not the best fit. And then it takes that leader to come in and say, like, well, what about you? For you to be like, I could do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's good for you to point out that the head of product came to you and just like really said, like, hey, like, what about you? You knew you had a chance.
That's so funny because I never thought about this, but how I got into product marketing at my previous job was because like a boss reached out and he's like, hey, this is open and I see a lot of things that like you would be really good at. And like selfishly, I want to keep you on my team. Like, I don't want to lose you. You're too valuable, but you would crush this. And so that got me to be like, oh yeah, cool. Let me see what I can do. So it was that like both times. Like a boss is so crucial. They can see sometimes strengths in you that maybe you can't even see or don't want to admit, or like you know what I mean? Like I don't know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good point. That happened
Yeah.
both times. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such a good that is such good leadership. Like when I hear these stories,
Yeah.
especially for the one that you were on their team and they were like, I love you, but like I think this is a really big growth opportunity for you. I'm very blessed to work with folks like that as well. And at my last company, that's actually how I pivoted into quality assurance. There was no open position at all. The manager just came up to me one day and was like, you should really consider being on my team. And so
Nice.
we kind of had some conversations. And just like you said, I didn't really see or like maybe fully understand the skill set that I was bringing. And in hindsight, it makes sense now because I specialized in finding and testing bugs just from the customer support side.
Mhm.
So he saw kind of that transferable skill thing we've been talking about, brought it over into QA, and I became a QA analyst. So I think that that's also a really, really good point to touch on in terms of thinking of the product journey that people are on. Good leaders, strong leaders can really help make this happen for folks. And I don't want people to sleep on that either, because it is, as much as we like, as humans being able to say like, yeah, I did this, mentorship, guidance, help, all of it, crucial to any journey we're on.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think also like on the PM journey, I think if you can identify even just like a piece of interest in that and sharing that with a leader is really crucial too.
Yeah.
Because like as much as we want to say leaders will identify that for themselves and be able to point that out for us, some of them are just so busy they may not. But if we can identify that for them, I think that's where they can start identifying skills and opportunities for us as well. But yeah, I mean, can't sleep on good leaders because
Yeah, no,
they definitely need some snaps.
for sure. And it's funny you brought up like, show the interest, show, hey, like I've got some skills here. I did that without even really knowing that at Nectar when I got here. When I was product marketing, obviously, like I said, I was working with these customers and like I was kind of looking at the data and seeing what does actually drive engagement in this platform. Like what is it? And what do customers actually want? They come to us because they want to engage their employees more so that they're more likely to retain. So I always knew that. That was the big thing. That's what we do. And so I was like, okay, well, what is going to drive more engagement? It seems like people send the most shout outs when we ping them, when we email them. Hey, reminder, your points are about to expire. Have you shouted somebody out? Something like that. And engagement just soars. And so I'm like, okay, clearly notifications. Like clearly there's something to this about pinging customers. We don't want to overbear them, but there's something to this. And so I always was like, man, I feel like there's something we could do here. And so I brought it to the CEO and the head of product and I'm like, hey, I'm noticing this trend. Can I jump on with some customers to explore a way that we could solve this even more and allow those admins to maybe create a campaign of their own so that we're not pinging them unnecessarily when they don't want them to. But no, they're choosing, hey, I want my people to get notifications from Nectar on this cadence, and I want to drive that engagement every single week or something like that, or something to that extent. And they were like, yeah, go ahead, go explore it. And so I went and did like a bunch of customer interviews and like figured this out. And so I was almost like playing product manager before I was product manager. And I think that me having done that showed them like, oh, hey, he's got a skill set here that could actually be really valuable. And I think that's what, like, when a product manager position came open, he's like, hey, throw your hat in the ring. You showed me you actually are interested in this. You're pretty good at it. Go ahead. Like, let's go. And so, yeah, show that interest. Add value wherever you can. Wear the hat before you're even in the position kind of thing. Like dress for success. That whole thing. Be in the position to try to do things and, obviously get permission before you just start reaching out to customers. But yeah, like go for it. Try to add value wherever you can and start doing it. So anyway.
Love that. Santi, that just reminds me of you. You're so like that. You're just like, I'm going to get this.
100%.
She is all for that. She's like, oh, what can I do and where can I do it? How can I add value in all these different areas? She's always telling me, well, I'm doing this today. So I just know that resonates with Santi for sure.
The whole time he was talking, I'm like, yeah, that's the
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Like, preach. That was so good. That was so good. 100% agree. It's something that when folks reach out to me and they ask kind of like, how did you get into product? Do you have any tips? Things like that. I say basically what you just said so well is see what you can do to work on like product things, right? And it might not be like, hey, go fully flesh out a feature you think would be beneficial to the company, but it might be like, hey, see if you can dig into a little bit of data, like kind of what you did. Like you noticed a trend, You were like, okay, there's some stuff here we can dig into. And then you asked for permission to dig into it. So I'll give just like different ways depending on what projects or what company they're working at. But ultimately, it's that end result is still the same. Where can you add value and what can you dig into and start actually putting product into practice where you're at? You could be in marketing. There's definitely overlap between marketing and product, like you just said. There's little things that you can do to overlap. So that's the advice that I give people. And you're a prime example of how to do that and do it well. So thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you for the kind words.
So one thing that we really wanted to ask Tyler, we tried to dig in a little bit to the potential negative sides of product as well. And so it's not always like positive. We know that we work in product. We know it's not all like peaches and sunshine. So I'm just curious, has there been any good or maybe positive challenges, but also negative challenges that you've experienced since you got into product?
Yeah. So one of the toughest things about being in product for me so far is having to be so very aware of all the ways that your product kind of sucks. Like it doesn't work very well, or has like bugs and all that stuff, and you're kind of the one that has to be the best at troubleshooting those bugs. You have to be diving in. You just have to know the depth of your product and the breadth of your product. You've just got to know it so well. And so like having customer success and support just reach out to you constantly being like, hey, there's this bug. Hey, there's this bug. Hey, there's this bug. And you're just like, I have a million things that I need to do. I'm trying to balance all of our like commitments that we have for this quarter while also trying to make sure that our product works well as expected for the customers that already exist. And so that balancing act between like, okay, we're trying to drive new features to provide more value, to allow sales to sell more things, but also I need to manage the existing customers we have and the expectation they have of the product that they bought working well, and managing the stakeholders and being able to say no. And it gets to be quite overwhelming. I'm going to be straight with you. Like it is quite overwhelming, but it's a blast. Like it's honestly such a freaking blast figuring out how to do that and carrying that heavy burden. Obviously, some people are going to rise to the occasion. Some people are going to kind of crumble under the pressure. And so make yourself resilient and be able to rise above that and manage those stakeholders, manage the expectations, still try to drive, continued product features moving forward. But yeah, I would say for me, that's been the most challenging thing, but the most fun challenge so far of product is having to do that balancing act. And just the amount of knowledge that you have to have of your product is kind of crazy. Like there are certain times where there's this bug. Oh, I've literally never dove into that part of the product. This is news to me. Shoot. Okay. And like you almost feel like, oh wait, I'm a terrible product manager. I don't know this piece of my product. Like, oh no. But just keep learning, keep going, keep learning. But yeah, that's been the toughest challenge for sure for me.
Do you feel like you had, I don't want to say like competitive advantage, but do you feel like you had a little bit of a leg up coming into being that PM since you were on the marketing team? So you kind of knew the product, you knew some of the common bugs, things like that when you took over that PM role?
For sure. Like there's no doubt that because I was already in the company, already working with the product, already working with our customers, there was so much there that I was kind of able to hit the ground running and ramp fairly quickly as a PM. Even though it was my very first time as a PM, I had been on the product team at Dental Intel. I had been at the company for a little while here at Nectar. And so I kind of had a fair amount of experience, both of those things. And so I feel like that definitely gave me a leg up. And honestly was probably part of the reason why they went with me, which was amazing. Yeah, there were certain times like I just remember being in meetings where we'd be going over what's our roadmap look like. And I'd have to present like, here's all the research I've done for this new thing that we could do. And they were just like, they even said this, if we would have hired anybody else, there's no way they would be at the level that you're at right now, being able to provide the value, provide all the knowledge, the amount of research you've done. If we went with anybody else, like we'd be going so much slower right now. And so it definitely gave me a leg up for sure. Already having knowledge to a certain extent of the product. I wasn't like in the channel where they're reporting all the bugs and trying to go troubleshoot it myself. Like obviously I'm not going that deep when I'm in customer marketing. Who wants to? But so that was like the learning process for me. Yeah. But definitely having at least a pretty good knowledge of the product. And the fun thing about working at Nectar is we're our own customer as well.
Yeah.
And that's also cool. Like we use our product at Nectar. That gave me also a leg up just because you're using it. And so you obviously have knowledge of how it works.
I mean, that's great. You're on the end user side, so you know what the UX is like from that side, which is like not common. Like my last org was like that as well, where we used our product internally. And I feel like that helped us identify bugs. I feel like that helped us just say, this is weird all the time. And then I feel like it also just helped us say like, you know, this isn't fixed to the dev team when they said it was fixed. Things like that would come up a lot and helped us really identify issues before a customer would. There's such a competitive advantage there when you have the product and you're using the product every day versus just like waiting for a customer to report something.
Exactly.
It's just like crazy.
It's insanely valuable, like insane.
Yeah, Meg's really good at this too. She's very objective. It's very much like, here's what it is. It's a problem, you know, sucks, yes, but we can improve it. So we look at our products through that like kind of objective lens and not bias as much as possible, because we can always be a little biased to our products, but looking at it just from like, here's the reality of it. Here's where having that user empathy really comes in and being like, okay, yeah, this is weird. This is weird. As a user, I don't know if I like this, right? And just having that objective view of it, I think also really makes a difference, right? Because we don't want it to always be just like negative, 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 but we also don't want it just to be rainbows and sunshine. So you look at it, how it is. This is what it is. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I fully agree. And like you said, that customer empathy, because it's easy to get into like, well, it works. Like, I know it's not great, but it works. Like, you can do this and it'll work. It's like, yeah, but like, how much drop off are you going to get of that person that could have been in your product for a little longer, been engaging, but they bounced because they're like, this is just so frustrating. This is hard. It's like, okay, what outcomes do you truly want to drive as a product manager? You want people engaged in your app. You want people in there as long as possible, you know, all that stuff. So that stuff matters. And so it's not just, it works. It's like, no. Like, how can we make it work even better and make sure it's a seamless user experience? So I totally agree.
Absolutely. That's something I'm so passionate about too, is that we always think of building features and there's functional requirements and aspects to it, but I talk about this a lot, at least with my product friends. There's also the emotional aspect of building product and how the product or the feature or the workflow feels for the user that's using it. So it's not just about like, yeah, you can do this thing. How do they feel when they use the product? Do they feel accomplished? Are they feeling like this is easy? Do they feel relief because they were able to get the job to be done that they had to do done quickly and efficiently? What are the emotional aspects behind building product as well? Not just building it for like, yeah, it checks this box, this box, this box. How does the user feel when they're using it? And does it deliver the value that we wanted it to? So I think with the messages that you've been sharing through this podcast, you have that ingrained as well. And a lot of that does come, and because I have it as well, from that customer background and like having that like on that customer facing team. Meg has it as well. We all can see it for like kind of what it is in the user's hands. And it's very, very helpful, I find, in the product management space.
Yeah, totally. And it's one thing to put out an MVP, you know, that's like, okay, this isn't perfect, but it gets the job done right now. And we just want to gauge like, hey, is this solving a problem for you? Like, are you actually genuinely interested in a product like this? Okay, now we gauge the interest. Now we go and polish it up and make sure the user experience is phenomenal. Like, that's a different thing. You don't have to get it perfect first time out the door, but, you know, manage those expectations knowing, hey, this is an MVP and we're going to continue to iterate on this and we're going to make it better. So
exactly. I love MVPs too. They're my fave.
Yeah, definitely underrated.
I like the data. I'm a data nerd, so it's fun to put out an MVP and just like watch like through the scope. Like, what can I get from this? It's always like fun for me.
So one of the questions that we came up with, and I think we touched on this one earlier, it was like overcoming a challenge, but you spoke to that knowledge piece that you were acquiring in terms of managing stakeholders and stuff. So the next question I think that would make sense to ask, if someone had only 3 months to make the pivot into product and they're looking to jump in within that 3-month time frame, what specific steps would you recommend that they take or look into?
That's a really good question. For me, honestly, it was like read up on what makes a great product manager. And for me, that was Marty Kagan's book. I can't remember the name of it right now. Inspired. Thank you. Yes. Phenomenal. And there's a reason why it gets mentioned so often is because like that's your roadmap for how to be a great product manager. Like genuinely read that and basically do it. Like that will set you on such a good course to how to be great at product. But also, like I said, spend time with customers. Spend time with customers as much as you can. Really, truly understand their needs. Because to me, that really is such a massive part of product is just understand your customers, be able to empathize with them, and not just like understand them and be like, oh yeah, that's tough. But then think through like, is there some way that our product could solve that problem for you? And if so, how could we do that? And diving into that specifically and just get practice, like practice that of like finding what problem does your customer face. And by the way, not just problem with your app. We all know that there's problems with your app. I mean, problems with their job, like their jobs to be done on a daily basis. What problems, what things are they facing? And then like, okay, well, what lane is our product in? Is there somewhere we could solve this, and try to dive into that and get some practice? And I would say that's going to be your most valuable thing. Like, yes, read, yes, listen to podcasts, yes, this all. Get real world experience with your actual customer. Go be with people. I think that's going to set you on a better path than anything else.
Do you know one thing that I heard the other day that I thought was really interesting? I would love your take on it. So someone shared the idea of if you're using an application that you really like and you're a job seeker, if you're using your favorite app every day and you're interested in becoming a PM, like you have no former PM experience and you're wanting to like break into being a PM, interesting way of breaking into product would be like solving a pain point with that application by finding, I guess, like a pain point with the app and then almost like posting on LinkedIn about how you would solve the problem. I forget how she worded it, Santi. Maybe you can kind of like add in some fluff there, but I thought it was a very interesting approach.
No, you pretty much nailed it. I would say it was almost like the build in public approach, just without building your own product. It was more or less like, you're using some of your favorite tools, write about on LinkedIn improvements you would make, how you would go about making those improvements, how you would measure the improvements, and just kind of like build in public, but with hypotheticals from the product that you like using.
I absolutely love that. That's kind of the same lane that I was trying to get into, of like, get some real world experience, like go out and actually do it. You know what I mean? Like with your customer or with a product that you like or don't like, by the way. It's funny because that's actually one of the questions that was asked to me in my product interview, was, hey, what's a product you like? What's a product you don't like? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And that forced me to be like, okay, what is a product that I really like, and what is it about it? What problems is it solving? What is the UX really good? Is okay, what's a thing I don't like at all that I've used recently, and why don't you like it? What could be better about it? Like that's huge. So yeah, I fully 100% agree with that. Yeah, dive into products that you use on a daily basis. Figure out, okay, well, what makes this a great product? What problems is it actually solving that are so crucial to my day-to-day, that makes it a product that I come back to every day or every week or whatever cadence you use it? Why do I come back to this thing? What is it about it? Or why don't I use this thing as much as I should? This should be such a crucial app. What is it about it that makes me not want to come back to it? Like dive into those things. And I love the idea of then taking that public. Jot down your notes, jot down your thoughts, and then take it public and potentially even get some feedback on that. I think that's such a phenomenal idea. I love building in public. That's what I did during customer marketing at Nectar. It was my first time, by the way, in customer marketing, and I literally built in public. I was like, hey, these are the problems I'm facing. This is how I'm solving it. And just in case somebody else is out there like getting into customer marketing and they're like, oh, how do I do this? It's, hey, here's the problems. Here's my approach. Here's what I did. I definitely built in public. And I think that helped me a lot to put those ideas out there, get feedback. Even just the writing it down, even disseminating it down into super simple, quick thoughts, just that exercise alone is huge because you're able to really take all of the learnings, disseminate it down into a quick, easy thing. That's going to make it so much more memorable and you'll be able to apply it so much better in the future. And then obviously posting it in public is even more nerve-wracking, so it forces you to get really good at it. And so if you're just jotting it down, you're not going to make it great. But if people are going to see this, you're going to spend a little more time doing it. So especially
if you're going to ask for feedback on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. On the internet, for sure. Yeah.
Look at this guy from Nectar. He has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Our customers see that and they're
LinkedIn
like,
blue tick.
wait, this is the guy we trust? Like, what?
No, I love that. That's great. That's really great feedback. It was the first time I had heard that suggestion. I feel like I've seen people doing that, but it's the first time I had heard that suggestion from a PM. So it's really great to hear you like validating that idea. And I've never given that advice to a job seeker personally, but after hearing it from somebody and validated by you, it might be some advice that I start giving out now as like direct advice. Because as someone who, just recently pivoted to a new PM role, and as someone who's been looking for jobs in between that period, I was still employed when I was looking for a job. So I probably wouldn't have taken that approach because it'd be kind of weird. But if I was on the job market, it would be a really fun approach. I have a lot of apps that I love on my phone, and I feel like that could be really fun. So I'm not sure. I think it's a really cool approach.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all of our questions that we typically try to ask, but we like to give you some additional time. If there's anything that you haven't shared that you would like to get out on the episode, any rants that you'd like to share about being a PM, then this is your time.
Mm-hmm. Let me think here.
It can also just be something like, these are my favorite parts about being a PM or anything.
So honestly, maybe my favorite part of being a PM so far, and I did not expect this in the slightest, is how close I've come to be friends with our engineers. I freaking love that team so much. They're such talented, interesting people. And a lot of the time, your best ideas of how the app can improve can come from your engineers. Don't sleep on that. Do not sleep on that. They know the app so stinking well. They know exactly how it works. They know what efficiencies can be made in it. They know it very, very deeply because they're literally building it. And so don't sleep on that. Become very good friends, very close with them. Gain their trust as much as you possibly can. And not just from the work perspective, but like truly become actual genuine friends with them. For me, that's been such a massive unlock. I don't mean to like toot my own horn, but legit, we were kind of making some change ups in how the team structure is at Nectar. And we were needing an additional engineer to go onto a different team to work on a slightly different product that we have. And he literally said, I don't want to switch teams because I enjoy working with Tyler too much. I really like him as a PM. And having that level of trust with your engineers, you're going to get the best out of them. They're going to give their best work. They're going to build something really great that works really phenomenal. They're going to have more owner mentality over what they're building. They're not just going to build what's asked of them. They're going to think deeper about it. My all-time favorite thing is when we say, hey, we're going to be building this thing. And as they're thinking through it, like the technical design of it and whatnot, they're like, hey, did you consider that we could do this that might be a little bit better? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't think through that. And I'm so incredibly grateful that you did, because that adds so much value to our customers. So once again, don't sleep on the value of having a really good relationship with your engineers. They are not just mercenaries. They're not just there to build what you ask of them. Make them into missionaries. Marty Kagan says that. Turn them into actual people that care about what they're building, and you'll get so much value out of that. More than you can imagine, like genuinely more than you can imagine. So much value to your customers. And so, yeah, that's been a surprising thing to me as a PM, is how close I am with the engineers and how much value there is. And by the way, involve them early. Involve them very early in the process of building something. Again, it's not just hand it off to them and say, okay, go build it. No. Involve them early on in the design of it, in the thinking of it, in the inception of the idea. They have ideas that you can't imagine right now, but that will just be such a huge unlock for your customers. So yeah, I would say that's probably been my favorite part of being a PM, is the relationship with them and how much value you can get from your engineers.
That's awesome. That was a great closing statement. I feel I love that. I feel like a little mama bear over my engineers sometimes. I'm
Totally.
like, you guys are like my BFFs, and no one's gonna mess with my BFFs at work. I feel like
100%.
Santi, I know that you probably feel the same.
Oh yeah, I really do. And I find myself a lot in product meetings when we're trying to like think through different things of how we could tackle things, I'll be like, okay, let's also think of this from an engineering perspective. Like there's this, and this. Not that I am like a super, super technical PM. I've just worked really closely with engineers through the majority of my tech career. So I am very mindful of like, yeah, there's implications here that aren't just product and strategy, right? It really does ripple to the engineering team and really the rest of the company, honestly. So I do try to advocate for that. Like if something comes up and I'm like, hey, maybe we should be mindful of this, and hey, let's think through this a little bit more because this is happening. Another thing that I say about my engineers, when they tell me something, I'm listening. Like if they say this approach could have some really negative effects, for example, like if we're just solutioning, I'm like, noted. Noted. I take it very seriously because like you said, Tyler, they're in there, they're building the product, they know it very, very well, and the engineers are just phenomenal people. So I think it's crucial to have that kind of partnership and that understanding of each other in our disciplines. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think we have time for both of our closing questions. And I'm going to ask mine first. So if somebody was to reach out to you on LinkedIn, for example, and connect with you, what are 3 things that they can connect with you on that are completely unrelated to work or product management?
Oh, that's super interesting. I love reading. I absolutely love reading. By the way, anything like, yes, product books, that's always great. But just like general reading, I have a whole library of books right behind me. I absolutely love it. Extreme sports. I love sports generally, but extreme sports like snowboarding, wakeboarding, all of that kind of stuff, I eat that stuff up. And anything desert, the West, Arizona. I'm from Arizona, and so I love Western movies. I love the West generally. Like it's literally, oh my gosh, I eat anything up that's Western, John Wayne type stuff. I love it.
Did you watch Yellowstone?
I haven't actually watched Yellowstone. That's so strange, but no. My all-time favorite movie, I don't know. Top 5, at least top 5 is A Man from Snowy River though. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
Oh
we'll
man.
Trade. I'll watch that when you watch Yellowstone.
For sure.
But don't watch the last season of Yellowstone because it's terrible.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, noted. I'll make sure I note that down. But yeah, my dad is obsessed with Yellowstone. I know that for sure, but I actually haven't seen it.
It was good, but then they removed Kevin Costner, so it got bad.
Oh
so,
yeah,
not a spoiler because you can find that on the internet. Okay.
Wait, like he like is Yellowstone, right?
He
like,
is Yellowstone. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Heartland is also a great one. That's a nice little feel good. That one's phenomenal. And Santi, you're from Canada, so you might dig on that one. It's a Canadian show.
I should probably watch that, honestly. I could probably be a little more cultured on that.
It's a great one. It's a great one, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Funny. All right, Santi, you're up.
Okay, final question of the podcast, arguably the most important question. What is your most controversial food opinion?
Oh, my most controversial food opinion. There is no good pizza in Utah. Literally, there's no good pizza in Utah. Costco, I'm dead serious. Costco is maybe my favorite pizza in Utah because it's so bad here. It's all freaking chain restaurants and there's no like quality good pizza freaking anywhere, and it's so annoying to me because I'm such a pizza guy. And there's no good pizza here, and it's so annoying.
You gotta leave the state for some pizza.
No, like legit. I go to Arizona, and I almost eat pizza basically every day that I'm there. It's terrible. It's so bad, but I have to get all my pizza in because I know that I'm going to eat none here. Sorry, that's super state specific, but it bothers me. Bothers me.
It confirms that Nectar doesn't have pizza in the office as a company perk.
No, not at all. No, we do not have pizza in the office. We have Cafe Rio in the office. That's what we get, which I'm not complaining.
What's that?
Phenomenal. Oh, you guys aren't aware of Cafe Rio? Is that I don't know how far that's expanded. Costa Vida? Is that a thing that you guys? What? Okay, that's actually a pretty bomb. It's like Tex-Mex type stuff.
Oh, yum. I love Mexican food. Fun fact for you, where I'm at, there's no good Mexican food.
Oh, so such a bummer.
I'm suffering in silence over no good Mexican food. So I'll be jealous of your Tex-Mex.
Yeah, see, growing up in Arizona, there are Mexican restaurants everywhere and Italian restaurants everywhere. That's like the two restaurants there, and it's the two things really lacking quite a bit here in Utah. So it's kind of,
And
it's
yet
such a
you go
bummer.
to Arizona for pizza.
I go to Arizona for pizza and Mexican food. I go there for those.
Well,
Not for
that was a
family.
good
That's
one.
that's a secondary. Pizza,
Let's be clear.
pizza, Mexican, and then family. Yeah.
Tyler's going home for Christmas for pizza, not
Precisely.
for family.
Precisely, yes. Yeah.
Well, cool. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing your controversial food. We appreciate it.
For sure.
And thanks for coming on the episode. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This has been a fun chat.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. You guys are awesome.